Okay, let's get into our ranking
Okay,
systems. We are
let's do
deep
it.
into this podcast. Let's
We
break
are,
it
yes.
down. Yeah. How about we'll start with we'll do technical achievement. What's
Okay.
your ranking? 1 out of 10.
So technical achievement, I gave this one a 9 out of
Okay.
10. I think, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think that this time, watching it this time, this is where I kind of saw some of the flaws. Like, the acting is really good, but there's definitely some lines that I'm like, that's kind of a dumb line, and like, or it's kind of weird, but it still is really great. So I mean, it's kind of nitpicky, but this is what I felt like. Okay, this is a 9 because it's not perfect. Not everything is perfect, but I mean, the cinematography is amazing, the editing is amazing, so those are all things, but it kind of came down to the acting and some of the dialogue that they had. I didn't feel like I could give it a 10.
Yeah, and again, what we're talking about when we talk about technical achievement, we're not just talking about special effects. We're not just because if it
Yeah.
was just like the technical achievement of the special effects in this film, I think I would give it a solid 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
what this movie did for films as as far as like the
Mhm.
tools of filmmaking,
Yeah.
it totally
Yeah.
revolutionized the film industry. And I would
Yeah.
give it a solid 10 out of
Yeah.
10. There's a lot of aspects of the craft of this movie that I would give a 10
Yeah.
out of 10. But because we're going in the totality of like the
Yeah.
things that like cinematography, editing, sound mixing,
Yep.
score, script, acting, all of the things that
Yep.
are how a film is technically constructed, I would say the same thing. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. And I'd say
Cool.
that most of these categories for me are a 10 out of 10. I think I'd give the
Yeah.
cinematography a 10 out of 10. I'd give
Yep.
the special effects a 10 out of 10. I'd give the fight choreography a 10 out of 10. I'd give the
Yeah.
I'd give Don Davis's score a 10 out of 10. There's
Yeah.
just like there's a few things in the dialogue and a few things in like this in the character development that I think could be tweaked
Mhm.
just a hair to make the movie
Yeah.
a thing where I'd go, I see there's nothing about this that bothers me. Every single box is checked.
Yeah.
Every single thing is accounted for. But because of that, so maybe I'd like a 9.5 out of 10. So 9 or nine and
Yeah.
a half out of 10. Okay.
No, that works.
How about rewatchability for you?
Yeah, rewatchability for me is a 10.
Okay.
Because I can watch this movie, like, I watch it and I get so excited. Like, it's I don't know. It's pretty simple for me. I can rewatch this movie many
Mhm.
times, and I have. So it's a 10 for me.
So rewatchability for me is going to be a 9 because the same reason where I'm like, I love rewatching this movie, but I also feel there's a part of me that feels like every time I rewatch this movie, I lose a fraction of a thing that I used to love about it. Like
I
something
can
will
see
come
that.
up, but it's
Yeah.
both because sometimes I see new things that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Today was the
Yeah.
first time that I'd ever seen the Simulation and Simulacrum book. Today was the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Like there are lots of things that I notice for the first time every single time I watch it,
Yeah.
which gives it a lot of rewatchability. But there are also
Yep.
things I notice every time I watch it, which I go, oh, that's a little cornier than I remember it, or that doesn't
Yeah.
land as well
Yeah.
as I remember it, or
Yeah.
and I've always felt like the development of their love story leaves something to be
Yeah.
desired. And I feel that every time I watch it, that I'm like, the movie's just sort of telling me that these two characters are in love and I have to just go along with it. And we don't have time to really develop that anymore. And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep.
But there's things like that when I rewatch it, I feel like and then I also, and I know that this isn't fair to The Matrix because I should just be judging it as its own film, but I think that the subsequent films have done some harm retroactively to it. So when I rewatch it,
Yeah.
there are things that I'm like, some things that we've like it feels like we've undone what was done in this film that like, especially in
It's true.
Resurrections, that it's just sort of like, we just plugged some version of Neo back into the Matrix and here we are doing it again. And I know that, so
that it's very true. It's very true.
I'll continue watching this movie for the rest of my life, but I'm going to say 9 out of 10 because it's not,
okay.
sometimes I watch a movie over and over again and I like it more every time I watch it. This is a movie where I continue to like it every time I watch it, but there's always like one little thing that I go like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually, that's very true. I got to change mine to a 9 because
Yeah.
it's probably. I think you're right on that. Like this time I watched it and there was just a couple little things that I'm like, oh yeah, that was a little weird or whatever. But it's still, I could rewatch this movie a lot. 9 is.
I'm going to keep
near
watching it for the
perfect,
rest
so.
of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I got to show my son. I feel like he's old enough. He can. I mean, I was
Yeah.
about his age when I saw it. But anyway,
How about the ending of this film?
I
Does the
gave.
film
Okay,
stick the landing?
I feel like the film sticks the landing, so I give it a 10.
Me too.
Because it really, yeah, it's just like everything culminated in this, and like everything was set up perfectly, and so it all came together, and it totally sticks the landing for me. I don't, it's an easy 10
even
for
though
me.
part of the ending is that reveal that what the Oracle told Trinity is that she would be in love with the one, and so that's why that's part of. But I'm like, there've been breadcrumbs
Yep.
leading up to that. It is baked into the screenplay. It's all there. But what really works for me here, just as a viewer and as an audience member, is it's one of the most satisfying character arc payoffs of all time in the history of cinema. Like getting to watch our main character who has come close and bumped up against his potential and bumped up against his power, have just that last moment in that hallway where he's just perfect, where he is just like, where he just now is the pinnacle of confidence and the pinnacle of power. And then leading into his him on the phone, the phone in the telephone booth, and the Rage Against the Machine song. Like, it's just like such an ultimately cool and satisfying ending. And and it gives me chills every single time. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Love it. Yep. Absolutely.
Cultural impact, cultural significance.
For me, this is a 10. Because not only did this change cinema, like, fight scenes, everything kind of got faster. Everything started emulating what this movie did. So it changed how movies are made for the most part, and how they're filmed, and how just the whole style kind of changed because of this movie. But also, so it changed cinema, but it also changed the way, I feel like it changed our culture. Like, as we've talked about, like people, like simulation theory, like, are we in a simulation? Are we in the Matrix? Like, it has affected how we view that, and how we feel like, oh, is this really real? Like, are we really in a simulation? Like, and just like all the one-liners that we all still say, I know Kung Fu, like that's still a saying that people say and know exactly what you're talking about. And
there's a handful of films, in our lifetime that have just permeated into the culture, and this is one of the most culturally influential films of my entire lifetime, and of all time. Like, the way that it absolutely radically completely changed the culture irrevocably. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 because of this. This is my caveat for cultural impact and cultural influence. Is I'm not sure all of the ways that it influenced the culture were positive. And I don't necessarily, I don't know that should count as a doc against it, because it's not positive. The category is not positive cultural impact. It's just cultural impact. And it undeniably had a 10 out of 10 cultural impact, but just some of the ways that it changed the way people make movies. I was like, especially for like the first 10 to 15 years after it just felt like every single movie was just doing the Matrix, or trying to do the Matrix and doing it worse. And like all of the copycats, and I think it's one of those movies that people tend to like misunderstand the philosophy of all the time in bad ways, or
it has negatively influenced the
but maybe that shouldn't be a knock against it, because it's still like, it is a massively influential film. It is it is a before and after film for sure.
We can make up the rules, so I'm fine with you giving it a 9.
Subjective feeling, just how you feel about this movie.
Subjective score for me is a 10, because I mean, like we've talked about, like it's a lot of there's some things that I'm noticing some of the cracks or some of the things, but the influence that this movie had on me as a person and as a somebody who wanted to be, as a filmmaker, is this is one of the movies that has influenced me the most. So like me subjectively, I love this movie. The experience of you and I going and seeing it when we were 11 years old, and just like that fun experience, like I will remember that forever. Like it will never
I don't think
go
I've
away.
ever. Yeah, God, I wish people liked going to the movie theater more, because I still get those experiences from time
I
to
do
time
too.
where I'm
Yeah.
sitting in a movie theater and I go like, this is like, I just got it with Dune Part 2. I was like, man, this movie's
Yeah.
awesome. Like this movie's
Yep.
so, it was such a
I got
cool
that too.
experience to see that in the theater. And like,
Yep.
I got that with Avengers Endgame, where I just was like,
Yeah.
this is a theatrical experience. Like this is
Yeah.
just a,
No,
but that's one of the first ones of my life where I was like, well, this is, I'm never going to be the same
absolutely.
after seeing this. It is a 10 out of
Yeah.
10 film for me. Subjectively, it is just, it occupies a place in my heart and in my conscience, in my subconscious. I mean, in my brain, that it will just forever be a thing that like has shaped the way that I feel about film and storytelling.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No,
So
totally. I totally agree. So it's a great one.
Yep.
Great movie.
Sounds like we're pretty similar on those. Yeah. Okay.
Just about, yeah.
I think that's it. I think we did it. I think we talked all about it.
All right.
Well, cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you on the next one of whatever we're going to call this. We'll have a name at some point for it. But
we will have a name.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation, this recap of The Matrix, and we'll see you on the next time.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around.